Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with
CJ Luke from the Fired Up with CJ show.
Woohoo! If you've ever felt stuck, trapped, feverish, or just at wit's end, then do we have the Let It Go and Let Things Flow show for you. It just doesn't even sound right. Today we'll talk about going on cruise control, not struggling against the tide, and letting the current take you where it may, especially towards greatness or even New York City. Gotcha. That plus we'll talk about raccoon updates, compulsive busyness, college hamster wheels, how not to go to a music festival, when you certainly don't want to be in an overly air-conditioned warehouse store, the power of 10-10-10, off to the editors, and when the world you absolutely positively don't want to go kayaking at night.
Ooh, oh no.
Oh, no. So welcome to the show, CJ. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine.
Woohoo! And we've got you on a different mic, and we've got you with one heck of a different background than usual. Yeah. Where are you? What's the latest?
I am, it's fall break at Duke, where my son is in college. And it's kind of shocking because I think he's been in school for less than maybe a month in the week. And he has fall break already. I didn't know. Did you have fall break when you were in college?
Not a week in.
It's just like a month in.
No, but my school was different. We did a block plan, Colorado College, 3.5 weeks, then 4.5 days off, 3.5 weeks, 4.5 days off. Each class was under a month, anywhere from 2 to 8 hours a day for class. So it was just super intensive. But I don't think we had a real break till Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what I had when I was originally at Duke. Well, he has a fall break, and so he's in New York City, so I thought I'd come over and visit my half-sister, and we're going to go see, hopefully, please be with us, fate be with us. We're going to hopefully see Waitresses tonight. I can't see Hamilton because the tickets are like, the cheapest ticket is $395 before tax, and then they go up to $1,000 per ticket to see Hamilton. So I'm hoping and praying that we can see Waitresses with Sarah Bareilles because I love her music. Do you like her music?
Don't know her.
Oh, Sarah Bareilles?
I don't.
She's like, say if you have, sing if you have to sing out. Honesty. Anyway, she has all these great songs.
I may know some of her songs.
Yeah, it's like a lot of women empowerment songs kind of things, and very spiritual music. So I'm hoping to see her. Mm-hmm. There's another something more. Who's that like sarcastic guy doing comedy? The one who does
that describes a lot of them. George Carlin.
No, something more. What's his name? The one who does all the documentaries.
Political? Geez. Michael Moore.
Michael Moore is here in New York, and he has a comedy show, so I hope to see that too. So, and the Guggenheim has this like phenomenal exhibit on Chinese. Avant-garde Chinese artists, so expressing what it's like to be in China from 1996 on. So I'm so excited to be here. Oh yeah, my son is here, so that'll be.
I love how you put that in order. Oh, here's here too. Anyway, Guggenheim, here I come.
Exactly. So
Waitresses.
So how about you? What's been going on with you? First, I want to hear about the raccoons.
So the raccoons have had an interesting week. They're really healthy. They're thriving. For a few days, they scampered away and found at least a part-time other abode, a little hole in the ground by the lagoon that we have here. But I think as the waters are down at the moment, as the waters come back up once we get some rain again, I'm not sure that hole is very safe for them. Yeah. So I tried to really bed up their situation
You're like a raccoon
here.
Realtor.
I put down this like red towel with stones, one stone next to the next, to hold it in place to keep them warm. I've got some rubberized stuff above to make sure that no water gets in at night if it rains, and I'm trying to think what's the most comfortable coon situation.
Yes. Are you a raccoon realtor or are you a raccoon whisperer? I can't figure out which it is.
I don't know. I hope I'll lean towards the raccoon whisperer over time.
All right, and then I want to know what the power of 10, 10, 10. I always love, I'm really into numerology. So I love, whenever I look at my watch and it's 111, I just, like, because the power of one, when you see ones in a row, that means new beginning. So what's 10, 10, 10?
So, and it's fascinating. I was thinking about it yesterday. When I was a kid, all the way back in Catholic high school, a long time ago, I used to see my watch and it would say like 129 and 29 seconds or something. There'd always be these repeating digits. And as a kid, I didn't think anything of it. Now, as an adult, when I see that or when you see 111, to me, that means wake up.
Yeah. We call it, my girlfriend and I used to call it the Yahtzee Syndrome. Remember when you used to play Yahtzee and you try to get triple sixes or triple ones? Anyway, so you're called to wake up. So you got a 10, 10, 10. When did you see 10, 10, 10?
10, 10, 10 is when we got married.
Oh.
And so our anniversary is coming up too on Tuesday because it'll be 10, 10, 17. So when this airs, we will have just had our anniversary. And, we thought of, we didn't really take the time to think of all these special things we could do. We usually do. This time, Jessica's like, you're getting a past life regression.
That's what I would think I'd want on my 7th year anniversary.
She's like, regression. If you're doing better, I'm doing better. You're getting a past life regression.
Does she have an intuitive sense on what your past life regression?
We've had a couple challenges as we get more successful and more popular. I am able to ride the wave of fear, but the fear is still there, and there's still what I call the screw up gene, which I thought came from my mom, which is fear of messing things up. And I do a lot of subliminal work, and I do all sorts of special stuff, but it's still there. And so the question is, can I get lighter? Can I help us move to the next level with everything in life? And, it's kid time. So can I even be a better, lighter daddy coming up if we get this behind us? And it's always, not always, but it's certainly been a question for me, which is, are these patterns from my parents? Or are they from the past? Because some of them are really strong, and I look at them and go, wow, where did that come from?
But don't you think if it's karmic, then it would be part of your past, which is echoed in your parents, so that if it's part of your karma to resolve it, it would have to be both from your past and your parents to kind of, your parents or your teachers in a lot of ways. It's funny because I had an insight this week about this topic. Having been, here, and I want to go back to, did you say you went to Catholic school? Aren't you Jewish? Sorry, that's just, I'm stuck on that.
Well, if you want the full history, since you asked, which has brought me to this beautiful place of all inclusiveness, truly all inclusiveness.
Monotheism.
So yes, it started out with certainly a multicultural mini daycare, so of all ethnicities and particularly immigrant children and immigrant families. Right. We went from there to, if I get this right, Catholic nursery school.
Catholic nursery school.
Hebrew kindergarten.
Okay.
Then starting a couple years later, while I was in public school, Hebrew school on top of that. Then junior high, 8th grade was Unitarian Christian, 8th grade. Yeah. Then was Catholic high school, 9th and 10th grade. Then was public school after that with a, get me out of here. After that, they put my locker right next to the chapel. And I went into the chaplain's office all the time to talk shop. It was cool.
I wonder if that really formed your desire to understand spirituality even more deeply. All of those experiences and knowledge and wisdom from different schools and religion. It's fascinating.
It did. And then, in college, I went occasionally to to the Jewish group, but what really resonated the most was, I guess, a year or two after college, I started dating a girl, a Navajo girl, who belonged to what's called the Native American Church. And for 6.5 years, I participated in drum circles and Native American ceremonies.
What? Like, your life is just... You're the most complex, interesting person I think I will ever have met.
Thank you.
Okay, so you had kind of a shamanistic,
absolutely
monotheistic, I mean, you just have the most interesting religious foundation. That's fascinating.
And it gave me the ability, first off, after years, and I'll add two more things to that. After that, and that was the first time that I actually experienced God. The first time that I felt spiritually connected to something greater than myself wasn't in school, wasn't in a church, which I hadn't really gone to much, even though that was in the school, wasn't in temple or a bar mitzvah or anything. It was in the sweat lodge. That is where the drums going, where you're there from like 6 or 7 p.m. to 6 or 7 a.m. and the drums are going all night, and the medicine man is moving around the hot coals, and you have Navajo elders in there chanting. That's when I first experienced, whoa, there's something much greater than myself.
And quiet and kind of tuning into your own inner self, while at the same time tuning into something higher. That's really cool. That's so very cool.
From there, I tried to replicate that in Judeo-Christian and started going every Friday night to Jewish temple, later followed by another girl I was dating, every Saturday night to a mega church, which was an evangelical Christian church. So I called it a double Shabbat because I do it on Saturday, so I didn't do it on Sunday. So I was, yes. And I got to know the head pastor really well. We talked shop too.
Okay, so this is so if life brings conversations for a reason, we were previously, I don't know why I was dying to know, like, wait a second, did he say Catholic school? But
Yes.
where we started, and I think it relates to all of this, is we were talking about worry and doubt and past life regression. And I'll tell you the insight that I had. I hope I get this right. But I was thinking about the same thing for myself. And I think when you are a child of two immigrant parents fleeing a country, there's this idea that your genetic DNA has embedded in it these kinds of concerns. So with your Jewish heritage, with being an immigrant child, we have probably very similar experiences. I'd assume.
My parents are still World War II. We had this talk last week in the car, or last month, whenever I visited them recently, about how they still wouldn't buy a German car.
Yeah.
And because it still hurts too much.
Yeah.
Because our extended family got wiped out.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's a tribal wound. I mean, it wounds deeply and traumatizes for generations. And so I assume that I'm carrying the trauma of being kicked out, and like a lot of the stuff that I think that I struggle with karmically is this idea of always being alone, even though I'm among other people. But I think it's this kind of immigrant kind of always feeling being outside. No, granted, I'm strange, right? Like I'm doing shamanic drumming with a bunch of attorneys.
You are out there, CJ, and that's why I love you so much.
I'm out there. So I know that I'm a little bit different than the average person. But even as a young kid, when I was trying to fit in, I just knew I was somewhat different. But I think it's part of this kind of immigrant genealogy of just you inherit some of these things, and doubt and worry, which I know that it's the emotions that the two of us share, is very it's embedded, I feel like, in my DNA. And this week I was looking into doubt and worry, and I realized that doubt is when you question. Here's what my inner insight. This is my channeled insight, or I don't know how to describe it. Doubt is when you question whether something is in alignment of your highest good. That's just doubt, which is there's no problem with doubt, right? Because you're questioning whether that thing that you're pursuing, the thing that you're doing, is in alignment with your highest good. Worry is when you question because you wonder whether you're not good enough, or if someone's taking advantage of you, or, it's like it's fear-based because something about being less than or someone else being more than. And so it's interesting because then I thought, well, I guess it's helpful. And I think that level of discernment is important because sometimes worry and doubt feel similar, but it helped me kind of think, okay, so am I worrying? And if I am worrying, is it because I have a fear, an egoic fear? And if so, what is that egoic fear? I don't know. That's what I came up with.
I was just reading, we're scheduled to have an interview, second interview. It's an amazing book, amazing man, Mo Gaudat. And he's one of the chief officers of Google X. And he has a beautiful book, Solve for Happy. Can't recommend it enough. And he talks about fear, and I'm going to relate it to this. So your description of doubt sounds perfect, and it can help us to get on track. There's nothing wrong with questioning. Now, if you're frozen in questioning, that's a different story. But questioning, thank God we question.
Yeah.
He would say fear, and we'll add this as an addendum, not a instead of. Fear is thinking outside of the present moment. So if you're in the present moment, you may go, I'm not sure if this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Let me look at that. Okay. And fear is going, I'm not sure if this is where I'm supposed to be in the present moment. And if I don't get my act together or figure this out right now, I'm going to be creamed. That's fear. I'm taking it into a future projection.
That's a good way of thinking about it too. So if you're thinking about something in the future, or when you're thinking about it, it's like I worry about others. Why? Because I think they're fundamentally, if you look really deep inside of it, it's because you think that they're less than in some way, could be attributed to you. So I worry about my kids. Why am I worried about them? Well, I'm worried about because I'm not about them really, but that I've taught them what do they need in order to survive, right? But it's always about something less than. But I like the addendum of thinking about stuff in the future, because if you're thinking about stuff in the future and you're not present, then it's worry, right? Because worry happens about worrying about the past and what you did and feeling regret and shame and guilt, or worrying about the future, trying to make sure you don't feel shame, feel guilt.
Well, if I know one thing about you, you work your tail off. I'm using raccoon analogies today. You work your tail off, and you always try with everything you can. Given you try with everything that you can with the available resources that you have, how can you not have done the best job that you could have done with what you had? Period.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I think it's stop worrying about it, right?
Nothing you can do. You don't have a time machine. Well, if you do, lend it to me, please.
Yes.
I won't tell anyone.
Well, it's funny
cut this out.
It's funny that you say that, because part of, like, that's the upside, right? You always know that you're trying to do your best. And so in your heart of hearts, there's a deep sense of knowing that you've done your best. And then I've been thinking about compulsive busyness, because that's almost like when good enough isn't, you've gone beyond good enough, because there's a compulsion that drives. Like, yes, I've done the very best I can. Compulsion is like, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to do a little bit more. And I spent this week contemplating how much, because we had talked about last week about getting older and being in a sense of ease. And the thing that prevents me from doing that, one of the things is compulsion to busyness, because if I'm busy, it means I'm doing something. If I'm doing something, it means I'm productive. If I'm productive, I'm of value. So then you go, so is the corollary true? If I'm not doing and I'm being, if I'm not moving and I'm sitting still, does that mean I'm not of value? And that's what I've been contemplating.
What's interesting is to bring it full circle to an immigrant mindset.
Yeah.
When you come over here with nothing, when there's literally a chance of annihilation of you or your people, or you've just escaped, or you don't know how you're going to make it, then it feels very real that every moment does matter. You are continuously punching the clock. You are continuously mending your garments, stretching that dime, doing everything you possibly can do. So it makes sense that you would inherit that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going back to the thing that you're saying. It's like a karmic or inherited sense, because if you're an immigrant, right? So let's think about what happened to my parents. They were both in China, very well educated, and lost everything. And then they moved to a different house, and they lost that house. They moved to 6 different homes within that time period of tumultuous times during China, when they were kind of getting rid of, eradicating intellectuals. And this is actually before the mass exodus. They were lucky enough to get out earlier. But when you lose everything recurrently, like I think about these poor people who've lost their houses and livelihood and everything, whether it's the livelihood in the Midwest and, or their possessions during the hurricane or the earthquake, like that just knocks you off your center. But if you have that recurrently 6 or 7 times, you start thinking, well, I need to be on top of things. I need to be focused on top of things. I need to be doing a little bit extra, because you never know what's going to happen. And that is the mentality that I've been raised with, sadly.
And that's the mentality. I can remember I think it was I in grade? I had figured out by 5th grade the answer to my problems, because I wanted to be out on my bicycle and playing, was I could do my homework in class while listening to the teacher. It's on the same subject. Why not? They're talking about the math problems. Do the math problems.
Right.
And so I would come home, and I was a good little student. We'll forget about the riddle and the zombified part, but I was. That's a whole nother discussion. But I would come home, and in the evening, my parents would be like, "Don't you have any homework?" And they'd like, "No, I finished it." Well, go do some more.
Right.
My grades are good. I don't have any more to do. But that was that fear mentality of, if you're not doing, you're falling behind, you're not going to be able to make it. Something bad is going to happen to you.
Yeah, and it did, right? It did happen to my parents. And it may have happened. I don't know what happened with your parents, but I know that it happened with their parents, or their lineage, right? So you just have this, I got to just do a little bit more, because you just never know. But I've been questioning that, and I have to say that finding myself. I did this work with the goal of being able to rest in stillness and feel a sense of fullness versus nervousness. Because honestly, because I have this upbringing, I get nervous when there's nothing to do. And I think a lot of people are feeling that now. Like, people don't have their phones, or they feel nervous to be still because they have not been still. And if they're
what am I supposed to be doing right now?
Yeah, if they're still, they have to reflect, and they have to think, and they have to be alone with their thoughts, and, God forbid. But I'm beginning to say, well, but then what are we here on earth to do? Like, are we supposed to just be running around all the time? Or aren't we here to learn something about ourselves and about life? And you know what I mean? So I've been thinking about that.
I like it. It is, we're on such parallels because, and we'll get into the why in a minute, but I've had a fever since Monday.
I know.
And it's still here. It's better. Each day has been progressively better, and I'm sure within the next day or two, I will have shed the fever completely. Another set or 2 of sheets maybe tonight and tomorrow night.
Honey,
Sorry. Then we'll be through this. But what it's meant is that I've had to be on cruise control this week, get through the interviews, and then the time where I'd say, what else can I do for the show? What else do I need to do? Has been no, I'm down. No, I'm down.
Yeah.
I am not going to do any of that this week. And that has been, it's been a clear reminder, even though vague, meaning it's not nearly the same extreme as when I had my second near-death experience and I didn't have enough blood to really power me back for quite a while. I had 5 blood transfusions. They wanted to do a bunch more, and I said, no mas, I can take it from here.
Right.
And so for months I was on the couch. The first few weeks I literally couldn't raise my head. And that level of beingness helped me reevaluate what I am, beyond the who I am, what I am, because, there are points at your life, particularly in the West, we are trained. If you're not doing, then you're worthless. If you're not putting your best forward, then who are you?
Right.
Well, I'm still me, and I'm still a product of love. I come from love. I'm going to return to love. So why do I need to work and slave myself to the bone while I'm here? Heaven on earth can be yours if you're not working 24/7.
Yeah.
But if you actually have the time to experience it.
So in this unplanned hiatus, unexpected hiatus, which you said is akin to the last time you were, drained of blood, literally. What is that? Your insight where you thought, how are you going to come back now from Monday and now like today, hopefully be done? How are you going to come back differently?
The biggest shift, and Jessica called me on this because she said, you're being really mopey and down, and we're getting you this past life regression, and you've got to correct your energy. And when you're not feeling well, it is a challenge to bring your energy up. But I think that's the biggest shift is, so I'm in the upstairs of this beautiful home. I've got this view over this lagoon, almost over the raccoons. And I realized that I'm up in my woohoo castle. Woohoo! I'm up in my studio, has to be the highest vibration place in the house. And I get to carry that high vibration with me anytime, anywhere I go. Doesn't mean I can't have fear. Doesn't mean I can't have challenges. But I need to spend this time becoming acutely aware of the energy I bring to each moment. And so that's the biggest shift that I'm seeing out of this week is, Michael, is your energy in check? And what can we do? Your job, Michael, is to raise other people's vibration. Teacher, right, but to raise people's vibrations. How's yours? Well, would you really have gone down this much if your energy was in the place that you wanted it to be? Good question.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a part, because I wasn't really out of alignment. I always look, why did I get sick? Why did I go down? And there was a whole series of things I joked about that maybe we'll talk about, which added to this. But I needed to go down to be able to step back, and as I called Jessica, she came up this little spiral staircase earlier. I said, check yourself. She's like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, do you have the energy to enter the woohoo castle?
Okay, so here's my interesting. I'm gonna challenge the woohoo castle. I'm not gonna challenge it, but I'm gonna.
Girl.
All right, so all right. First of all, I forgot to mention this in my recap, but I had the most profoundly enriching day on Wednesday. And I talked to this guy named Peter Block, who wrote this book called Flawless Consulting. And he was talking about a way of working with people he's this phenomenal consultant. He has all these training programs. He's sold like 4 million books. Like he's got his act together, okay, in consulting. And he said, when you're doing a consulting engagement, people think it's about the content. So, I'm going in and like helping the manufacturing organization improve their productivity or like this computer programming, whatever. But he's like, it's really about the relationship. And when you realize that it's about the relationship and you can focus on the relationship and it's all about the culture and the social systems, it changes the nature of a consulting engagement. And he was talking about, so we had this really deep conversation about our culture and the state of our culture and how it's in fear and what that does and what you can do, and it's really the stuff that you and I are working on. It's the only thing you really can do is focus on your own domain's scope of influence, right? Which is keep your palace in a high vibration or, be optimistic or stay in faith. So that was interesting. And the conversation I had directly afterwards was with Thomas More. Have you ever read his Step Care of the Soul?
Know of him, haven't read it.
Okay, and he has this new book called Ageless Soul. And when I read this book, there was literally one whole page that I underlined, entire page, because it resonated. And every single thing in this book is so beautifully written that it intimidated me as a writer. I'm like, why am I even writing a memoir when I read
I've experienced this.
Yeah, like something like this. I just feel so not worthy. But anyways, talking to him is like having, you're on an interview, but it's like having a cup of tea or coffee. It's like, he's not tea, he's coffee, like having a cup of coffee with a dear friend and talking about stuff. And we were talking about melancholy and aloneness and how we are in a place that and those are places of the soul. Those are places of the soul's evolution. And if we don't go into those challenging places of sadness and melancholy, which are low vibration, right? If we don't go into those places and dwell in those places of darkness, doesn't have to mean that you live there, but if you don't inhabit those spaces when they arise, then you're not evolving your soul. And I thought, well, that's just so beautiful, because I can tell you, having deep dived into those places, that I'm getting more insights about myself, about life, about my soul. And so that's the only thing I would say counter to the high vibration palace.
Oh, I think they coexist.
Yeah.
Because I call it leaning in. So when the fear comes in, when the angst comes in, I'm not going, crank it up, let's forget that exists. First, I want to lean into that. What's going on? What can I learn from that? Where is that coming from? Where do I feel that in my body? What is it here to teach me? Okay, let's learn from it. But for my overall day and experience, and if I can't crank it up, that's fine too. Be extra kind and gentle to myself wherever I am at. No judgment about it. But when you're not, but do for an overall perspective, what can I do to keep my vibration high and raise it even higher?
Yeah.
So you will have times you go down. Perfect, beautiful. Learn from them and lean into them like there's no tomorrow. They're your teachers.
Maybe, okay, here's my addendum to what you said.
I like this.
If we're going to write addendums like lawyers.
Lawyer Lou today.
But I get to know, you wrote your addendum, I'm writing an addendum to your thing. So my addendum would be that one of the things, if when you're going through a period of transition, of which I'm going through, which you're going through, the move and kind of now evaluating aspects of how you do your work, right? This is a transition. I don't know if you call your major or minor. I call mine like medium. Like it's not a major one, like someone died or I lost a job or, like I'm just going through a medium transition, but it's pretty life altering because I'm going to, Thomas More describes it as the rite of passage. And that's what I feel like I'm going through. It's not my son leaving. I miss him dearly. It's the rite of passage of moving from familyhood to like matriarch. There's a rite of passage that happens when that happens. And that's really more the transition that I'm going through, which is a pretty major transition. But my addendum would be, as you're going through these phases, to, feel the feelings that you're going to feel and meditate throughout. Because when you meditate, that's how you keep the vibrations up high. And I have to tell you, they've been the most crappy meditations. They've been the shortest, crappiest, sometimes don't even happen meditations. But if it weren't for those meditations, I would not be getting the insights. So it's like you could go down and just dwell in a pit. But I think it's an addendum, is go into those dark places, but bring a flashlight.
I guess my addendum to your addendum is we're actually on the same page, because leaning in for me is typically done in meditation.
Yeah.
That's where I need to dive in and ask. We had Adya Shanti on about a month ago. And I think he described it in meditation as like taking a coin and dropping it into the jukebox of consciousness. And that coin is asking the question, why am I feeling crappy? Or why am I experiencing this fear? Or where does this compulsion that if I don't do good, I'm not worthy, come from? and then being with it in meditation, which, yeah, my meditations, since I have moved here, and this is a blissful place, have been all over the place.
I'm so glad to hear that. Me too. Misery loves company, doesn't it? But that in itself is a meditation, right? Because what you've done is increase your awareness that your mind and your ego want to take control. Yep. That's what meditation's all about, right? To be aware and present to what's happening to you at this moment. Okay, my horror movie this week was every year there's like a 11th grade, 10th grade parent meeting or whatever, whatever year your kid is in. And so I was in the 11th grade parent meeting. And I was sitting down there like, so December, your child will have to come up with a list of colleges that they'll be applying to. And I was like, and
you're like, didn't I just do this?
It's like, like internally, that is what happened. And it was so hard to listen from that moment on. Just like December, I have it burned into my brain. By December 5th, we'll have to go through this whole process all over again. And then I went home and I said, Caden, you're not going to college. I just can't.
I was just going to say, if you go, you're on your own.
Yeah, you can't go. You just can't. You need to stay here forever. But yeah, I was like, okay, this is really happening. So I had my moment of horror. But I want to go back to some of the things that you said. So music festival, air-conditioned warehouse store, and kayaking. We got to cover those in the next 6 minutes, Michael. How are we going to do it?
It's one short or long story. I went each Saturday. I've been trying to do an epic bike ride or epic event, just something really fun and challenging myself. And this week I zipped on out on my mountain bike for what was going to be about a 70-mile ride, and wanted to see if I could find a way to loop around and double back into this national park.
Is this when you had the fever?
Nope, this is prior to the fever.
Okay.
And I ended up going down a farm road and got to this guy's, this amazing gentleman's farmhouse. It said private road, but I had seen it on the map and I went for it anyway. I waved past one guy on a tractor as I went. And I stopped where I got to this gentleman by a pickup truck, older gentleman in his 60s or even 70s, worked on some hay and some piping and some other stuff. And I said, does this go through? And he said, well, it used to. And he goes, but he said it got really bad this past year. And he goes, people that don't seem to care about things of others. And he said that I would have drunks with their pickup trucks coming into his farmland through his cornfields and doing donuts and the cornfields and tearing it up. And so he said, I built canals across the road because it's a private road so that people can't get through to stop them from coming in and tearing it up. So we had a beautiful talk. He shared with me there's a little like, I don't know what you call it, a marsh area, water and trees coming up through it. And he said, I was looking out here a couple weeks ago, and he's got this beautiful southern drawl, and he's been out there his whole life. He's really special. And he goes, I was looking out here a couple weeks ago, and he said, something didn't seem right. And so I just kept looking. And then I saw the gator out there.
What the hey?
So we're just on the northern limit of where gators or crocodiles can live. I can never get them straight. And it was a feeling that he had. And so we just kept looking until the feeling realized. And I thought that was just the coolest.
That's so Crocodile Dundee. Seriously.
It was. So that was a beautiful, beautiful adventure. And I had to ride my whole way back, and much longer of a ride than I expected. I learned that the power of my my little emergency cell phone Waze doesn't work in the South, as I had no signal until I got back to town. So I couldn't actually say, Jessica, this is a little bit longer than I expected. Right. And I do want to conserve my chi. Right. Limped back into town, got to her, and she's like, you ready to go to the music festival? I'm like, all right, are we driving there? And she goes, no, it's just down the beach. We can walk there. I'm like, you sure we don't want to take a bicycle there, drive there? And she goes, no, it's just along the beach. 4 hours of walking later.
Oh my God, how did you even make it? No wonder
It
you
was
got
almost 2
sick.
hours each way on the beach, kind of hobbling through the loose sand to get there. And we got there, we listened for a little bit, listening
I
to the
love it.
music.
That's great.
The music was awesome. It was at the time they were playing rhythm and blues and jazz, and that was divine. So we hung out for a while, and then we headed back. But once I got away from the music because I was too exhausted, and
Did you
I felt
kayak? What was the kayak at night?
so that was the next morning. We got up, and I said that we needed to go food shopping, and we live about 45 minutes from Sam's, an hour and a half from Costco. Costco has organic. Sam's doesn't really
Right.
have organic. And I'm like, let's go for it. And so we took the long drive. It was about 2 hours, got down there, a little bit of traffic, beautiful Mexican food meal. It's not a good Mexican restaurant around here, and I love hot food. We got to Costco, we got to Trader Joe's. It was kind of cold in both of those places, but that was it. We got back. We were supposed to go on a kayaking adventure in the morning. Jessica said, no, we'll get it in later today. I'm like, usually if we don't do it early, we won't get it in. She said, no, we'll get it. And so just before dusk, she's like, let's go do our paddling. I'm like, I think I'm pretty toast. And she's like, no, you said paddling. I'm like, okay, you're right. Let's paddle. And the morning I woke up with just a raging fever.
Oh no.
It was too much. It was clearly too much.
That sounds like you were just stretching yourself. You're kind of Iron Man. Like if there was an urban Iron Man, you did it. Ride your bike for 70 miles, walk for 4 miles on the beach, stand in the water, listen to music. And then what did you do right afterwards? You went to the...
So we got, it was
hour and a half drive to
4 hours walking, the mega long bike ride. The next day, about 4 hours driving, plus Costco and Trader Joe's. But let's also kayak in the evening, which was nice and romantic.
Right.
Except she's a little sprinter, and I had to try to keep up.
Yeah, that's now the urban man Iron. You could do an urban Iron Man. But
they give you is this like a Price is Right? They give you the shopping list for Costco, because that is an adventure and it can be a sport.
Those carts on a weekend when everyone's like a zombie driving around in those gigantic carts, it's an urban man Ironman. I think you need to do it.
So I was toast come Monday morning, and so I've been, it was Monday morning I was toast, and then it was by Monday afternoon that the fever was way up, and it was downtime. And I go, well, was it just me making mistakes? I'll put that in quotes. Was it just me choosing to do too much? Because I really do watch my energy levels carefully, or was there a lot more to learn from it? And ultimately, none of these things happen in a vacuum.
Right.
There was a lot to learn from it. I needed to go down. I needed to check my energy. I needed to step back. The guest we had on yesterday, Barry Eaton, I cannot recommend him enough. The Joy of Living. He's a broadcaster who has radio out there in Australia. It's like the coast to coast for Australia, and he's been a top radio announcer and producer for many years. He got throat cancer.
Oh man!
As an announcer, and talking to him about his experience, and I thought about that since I had him on the show yesterday, what his lessons he learned, and I said, I'm clearly, I'm not misbehaving with myself that much, but I really I think we all get to, check in with ourselves and say, am I doing the best energetically? Not the amount of energy we're putting out there. Am I really in the best place I can on my spiritual path, on my meditation, as far as my thinking goes? And Jessica would argue that at times I can certainly work on the internal languaging better.
Well, if you go to the stuff Shaivism, which I'm studying, embedded in consciousness, energy, Shakti, what they would say in Shaivism is, and I don't even know if it's Shaivism, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Shakti has energy, and within energy has consciousness. They do not reside independently. Like within consciousness, Shakti, you need Shakti in order to get there, and consciousness is embedded in the two. And I'm probably totally massacring and screwing this up. But the main point is that you need to watch your energy, because if you don't, you're also affecting your consciousness. That's
Bingo.
what I think is
Could not agree more.
Yeah. And I think we have to wrap up, because it was 11:11, right? When you said, and here was my insight. And I'm like, oh, that's something. It's about what I think the thing that you just said about watching your energy is so, so important because of consciousness being in there. So we've gone back to the palace. We've gone back to the palace.
The high vibrating woohoo palace.
Yeah, and all the things that get the palace to crash down, right? Compulsive busyness, worrying, compulsive planning, doing too much because you're trying to squeeze in too much of life in a short period of time. Like, those are all things that relate to your energy, which then relate to your consciousness, right? Sadness, melancholy, all those things are, they affect your consciousness and your energy because they're one and the same.
Yeah.
That's my wrap up.
I like it. And knowing when to let go.
Yeah.
Would I have been okay if I had only gone to Sam's and the local grocery for last Sunday instead of the epic adventure to fill our fridge with organic wonderness?
Right.
So, and there's a part of you going, yeah, but. And I think that was my butt that got kicked by the yeah, buttedness.
That was very poetic of you. Any other concluding thoughts for you?
Be kind and gentle to yourself.
Yeah.
If you do go down, and this is a time, at least we're seeing it here in this country, this is a time of high fear. There's way too much going on in the news. There's way too much going on with storms and post-storms and everything. I think it's so important in watching your energy, be extra kind and loving and gentle to yourself. And if you do have that cell phone coverage, and we'll be changing who I'm using, if you do have that cell phone coverage, call for help or backup when you need it, and don't try to martyr through or go it alone. Stoicism is not only dead, but it gets you in trouble. Ask for the help, and if you can, do less rather than more right now. You need the energy in the tank. My last thought from a crazy, bad bleeping bicycle racer in Fort Collins, Colorado. Randy Wicker, one strong, tough, like kind of Marlboro man of a guy on a bicycle. And he said, always keep fuel in the tank.
Yeah.
If you're racing, whether you're off the front, in the pack, wherever you are, if you don't leave fuel in the tank, something's going to happen.
Yep.
I didn't leave any fuel in the tank. Bingo.
Yeah. Love it. That is a great advice. Thank you, Randy.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler and
CJ Lou
saying, be well, have fun, leave some fuel in the tank, and be extra, extra kind and gentle to yourself, especially if you've got the gift of going down. And shine bright. Woohoo! Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright.